everybody. Join me as I show you how to do multi-row right angle weave featuring multi-hold beads. So this is a project that's hopefully inspiring and can give you some ideas that you may not have known were possible. If you do need any of the supplies, look below the video in the description and we'll put links there back to our site. So if you've never done right angle weave with multi-hold beads, I'm gonna say, why not? It's really, really simple. I'm gonna show you how to mix some of the different multi-hold beads like RounDuo, RounDuo Mini, SuperDuo, and DiscDuo into a design. You can do this with patterns, you can do it all one size, but I wanted to show you how to mix it up and kind of make up for space. I have a stop bead on some size 8 green dragon thread, and I'm dropping down 4 of my RounDuo minis onto the needle. I'm going to take my needle and thread back through 1, 2, and 3 of those beads, starting at the stop bead and going toward bead number 4. Going through that first hole, you can see that it pulls it into kind of a nice little square there. That's my first right angle unit. To do my next unit, I'm going to step up, going from the first hole to the second hole of that same bead. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a DiscDuo, a RounDuo Mini, and a DiscDuo onto my needle and thread. I'm going to do my next right angle weave unit by going through that same second hole of that RounDuo bead, looping it around so my thread was coming out the top. I sewed into the bottom after adding those 3 beads. Going to let them lay down next to one another. Sew through that first hole of the DiscDuo bead. And now that we're coming out on the right hand side, we're going to sew down through the first hole of that RounDuo that we just added, and then once again up through the second hole. Now we're going to switch it up again. We're going to go back in here and we are going to add a RounDuo, a RounDuo Mini, a RounDuo, coming out the top again of that first RounDuo bead that was in the last right angle unit, sewing through the bottom to the top, and then once again through the bottom or the interior hole of that RounDuo bead, down into the interior hole of the RounDuo Mini, the green one, and then once again step up to the next hole. So simple. The nice thing with the multi-hold right angle weave is that you're always doing it in the same direction. So I'm going to do the same thing here, adding a DiscDuo, adding my RounDuo Mini, and another DiscDuo. Coming out the bottom, go into the top of that same RounDuo bead, sew through the bottom of that DiscDuo, sew through the interior hole of the RounDuo Mini, down through the RounDuo Mini second hole, and once again then you can do your pattern. I'm going to repeat the pattern of 1, 2, and 3 more of my RounDuo Minis, and then into that same second hole that your thread is currently coming out of. Sew through the first bead that you added, sew through the second bead that you added, getting your needle and thread over to the right hand side of that right angle unit, and then stepping up into the hole of that right angle bead. Now you can see I've chosen green thread with green beads that I'm stepping up to, so you really don't see the thread. If you choose a white thread or something like that and you start to see the holes, you can always grab a 15-0 seed bead and you can add a 15 on the side so you don't see any thread. I'm going to continue with this pattern, so the next thing to do is add my DiscDuos, then my RounDuos, and then do another break as well. We're going to get the SuperDuos on as we do some second and third rows of our right angle weave. Once you have your initial center row of your right angle weave, we're going to add our clasp, but I'm using a table cut button to make this a really relaxed look. I'm coming out of my last right angle weave, ready to add the next one, and I want you to add 4 11-0 seed beads onto your thread and needle. So up through your button, grab 1, 2, and 3 more 11-0s, come down through the opposite side of your button, grab 1 and 2 more 11-0s, and 3 and 4. Go into that same RounDuo that your thread is currently coming out of. I'm going to reinforce this one more time, and then we get to do our next row of our right angle weave. So reinforcing means I'm getting a second strand of thread through the project or through the clasp area, which is always very important. From here then, going back through that RounDuo again, we are going to get to the exterior line here. To get the exterior 1, 2, and 3 11-0s, and jump up to go through the second hole of the top round duo. We're now on the exterior here, and we're going to get ready to do our next row of our right angle weave. Once you're coming out the second hole here, it's time for us to add more right angle weave. So we're going to grab some more of our RounDuo minis, and we're going to be mixing in some SuperDuos as well too. And I have my RounDuo mini on. I'm going to add 1, 2, and 3 of the RounDuo minis. My thread is currently coming out of that bottom bead from the right angle unit. I'm going to go into the opposite side of that bead. And then just like we've been doing, basically, we are going to start stepping up and advancing in size. So we're going to go to the interior hole of the rightmost bead of our right angle unit. And then from there, we are going to step up. So we're going to go from that interior hole to the exterior hole, and then we're going to get ready to do our next right angle weave unit. Now that you're coming out the interior hole of the rightmost bead of the right angle, we're once again going to step up, going through that second hole. Now, as we do our second row of our right angle weave, you're going to notice that your bead for your top of your next right angle unit is already there. We're going to go through the second hole of the DiscDuo bead. We're going to grab another RounDuo bead. We're going to grab a RounDuo mini, then a RounDuo, and then we're going to sew back through the right hand side of the bead that our thread was originally coming out of on that right angle unit. From here, we're going to sew through the DiscDuo. We're going to sew through the RounDuo mini, and then once again we're going to step up, going through the second hole of that RounDuo mini bead. Coming out the top, we're going to go through the RounDuo bead that sits from the row above. See how that gets put it right in there? We're going to add another RounDuo mini, and then we're going to add a DiscDuo. Sew up through the bead that our thread is currently coming out of, that RounDuo mini. After adding those 2 beads, sew through the top RounDuo, and once again get to the rightmost bead of the right angle unit that you are completing. As you do this, be mindful of your thread so that it doesn't get twisted. But as you do this, you can see that you're forming that second row of your right angle weave. You're always going to step up into the second hole of the rightmost bead, 1, 2, 3, 4, always through that second hole. Catch on to the second hole of the row, the right angle weave above it, and then you're going to come out, grab your beads and pattern, and back up through that rightmost hole of the unit before bead. Once again, go through the same hole of that top bead, down through the right side of your right angle unit, which is that RounDuo mini, and get ready going through the top of that one there. That gets you that mix of the pattern. Here, when we're coming out this right angle weave, I want you to go through that top RounDuo mini. You're going to add another RounDuo mini, and we are going to add an 11, a SuperDuo, and an 11. Come down through that hole of the RounDuo mini. Go on over, taking your needle and thread through the RounDuo mini at the top, through the RounDuo mini on the right, and then once again step up through that hole. So you can see the pattern starting to take place right here, and this is what we're going to basically link onto as we feed towards the exterior row. So you're going to continue, and we're going to do a whole nother row here where we get this kind of patchwork design, almost like a honeycomb look of this nice wide right angle weave bracelet. After finishing your second row of right angle weave, you're going to be coming out near the bottom here, and we're going to make a loop for our button to sit into. So you can see here you have your 4 Miyuki, or your 4 SuperDuos here, and your alternating bigger RounDuos and DiscDuos. I went ahead and jumped from this last exterior bead up to the second hole of the round duo at the very end. I've added 28 beads to my thread and needle. I'm going to go back and sew through bead number 3 of those 28s to make a loop, making sure that it will fit through your button. I'm going to add 1 and 2 more 11-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to sew back through that same RounDuo mini. Now we still have to go up and back the bracelet again, so I'm not going to worry about reinforcing it, but you can if you want to at this point. From here, your loop is on for your clasp, and what I'm going to do is get ready to do my second row. To do my second row of my project here, you can see that stop bead is there, kind of push that out of the way. You're going to add 2 beads, 1 and 2, and jump over to the second hole of that RounDuo bead where your thread is currently coming out of. From here, go back and do 1, 2, and 3 RounDuos. You're going to go through that same thread hole, and we're going to turn it now so that's the bottom of that right angle unit. What was the bottom is now the top. Go through that last RounDuo mini, reverse the thread, and then guess what? We're back to right angle weave, going and adding the RounDuos above the DiscDuos and the DiscDuos above the RounDuos, with your SuperDuos kind of hanging out there getting ready to catch some thread. Once you get to the end of this nice wide design here with that multi-hole bead, you are going to go in, we're going to reinforce the clasp here. We're coming from the outside. We're going to add 1 and 2 seed beads, so up into that second hole. We are going to reinforce our clasp, going up through the seed beads that's set on the side here, up through the clasp, down through the clasp, back through that RounDuo bead, through that first hole, down through the seed beads, and after those 2 seed beads, I'm going to add 1 more and go to the exterior hole of that seed bead, or that RounDuo mini there. Along the RounDuo mini now, what we're going to do is we're going to go up and down the project, adding in our seed beads. I'm going to add 1 11-0 to get started, and then we're going to get ready to go down and add the seed beads, connecting all the second holes of our multi-hold beads. So I went along the piece and just added 3 seed beads between each one of those beads, kind of creating peaks and valleys along the outer edge. Getting down to the end then here, I did 2 seed beads right before the end at the very start. Right there, 2, and then jumped into 3. Coming through those seed beads then, we're going to reinforce our clasp, going up through all of these seed beads before we come down the opposite end, once again adding 2 to start, and then 3 seed beads, catching on to the second hole of each of the beads here. So this is our last time on this end, and what I'm going to do is also tie off that starter thread, or that thread end. The piece that we're working with here, we will tie off when we get to the opposite end of the project. So what we're going to do is bring our needle and thread into the right angle weave here, come down through the seed beads. You can see I'm running out of thread actually from this one too. So through that RounDuo bead, take off this stop bead, tie this into a nice knot. You should have some extra thread if you started out with 5 feet. I always start out with less for camera purposes. Tie that off, and then burn down the thread end that's not connected to your needle. Burn that down towards the clasp, and then we are going to weave back through to get to the other side of the piece here and run our seed beads down the side, going through those 2 beads leading up to the RounDuo mini on the exterior, putting 1 bead on that corner there, connecting to that RounDuo mini, making that squared, then adding 1 and 2 11-0s before the first RounDuo coming out of that mini, and now you're going to increase to a count of 3. So 1, 2, 3 seed beads the whole way down the line. The only time we switch back to 2 is right before the end as we finish up the design. When you get to the end of the design, and all you have to do is tie off the clasp. I want to show how nice and wide it is. There's so many different patterns that you can do. You can play around with lots of different beads. Here it's the RounDuos, the minis, and SuperDuos, using the SuperDuos in some of the exterior as well. Lots and lots of options. The last thing I need to do is get rid of my thread. So I'm going to tuck underneath the bridge thread, loop around, sew through that loop once, sew through that loop twice, and that's going to give me a nice sewer's knot that you can pull nice and tight to the project. Yes, I did switch to white thread just to use up a little bit of an extra piece that I had already, and burn those thread edges down. You can see that again, it's nice and wide. It's a great bracelet to use up some random multi-hold beads that you have, and just allowing yourself a little bit of grace on the edge to add a couple seed beads to balance it out. Thanks so much for watching this multi-hold, multi-rowed bracelet. Again, I hope it's inspiring to say, oh, I can go and embellish that now too. Yep, you can take different seed beads along the front and make these nice wide bracelets actually very quickly as well too. Remember, if you need any of the supplies or some of the exclusives, go ahead and look below the video in the link there in the description to get back to our site. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.